Let's speak to Miles now. Miles, it struck me that you used to be kind of like an outsider. That's how it all started with you in cricket, wasn't it? And those people who don't know the story, very briefly, you came to the Oval Test match in 2005 and you wanted to get in, and you saw the journalists there and you thought, that would be a good job to do, and you went to India and you just kind of blagged your way on a tour of India, and then you wrote a book about it.
This was 2006. Then we went on that tour. So Alistair Cook, who was just sitting in his chair before me, that was he made his debut on that tour, didn't he? He arrived
in Nagpur.
He scored 60 whilst jet lagged, and then when he'd sort of woken up a bit, scored a century in the second innings. Yeah, it was a very that time I was sort of. I came into the same rooms that I was lying essentially to people, but now it's very nice to be asked officially, Simon.
Well, the reason I say you've been an outsider then, you're very much an insider now, because you've been invited to the game today by the Surrey committee. Is that right? Who's over there with you?
Oh, just a few former prime ministers, some members of Britain's biggest ever rock bands, former members of the cast of Balamory. That's my bits. That's all I'm contributing. Lovely people over there. They invited me because I once made a negative remark about Lords at a dinner, and they were so delighted they invited me to the Oval to say thank you.
You've been chatting to Brian May.
Yeah, he's very, very, very keen on his cricket. Actually, he's got the biggest, heaviest pair of binoculars I've ever seen. I think he uses them mainly to sort of witness interplanetary dust movement and things like that. So he let me look through them, but I felt intrusively close to the players. But I was looking at we had about 5 slips. They were all with their hands on their knees, which I thought is that very modern or is it very old-fashioned?
Well, that's a good question.
I just hope they've got good reactions. But it looked a little bit relaxed to me. But maybe that's the new vibe.
Yeah, Ian Both used to feel with his slips with his hands on his knees.
That's right, and now he's a trade envoy. So I suppose these things, they all, one brings two, yeah.
Now, middle please umpire. So there's you're acting and you do your tours, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But you also do a cricket podcast as well, don't you? Middle please umpire with Mark Andrew Wood. Of the parish of Ashington. Lockdown we started doing that, and I hadn't actually met him before then at all. I mean, not long before. I sat in the stands and he was winning the World Cup final, and then friend Nathan sort of put us together and said, I want to make a podcast, do you two want to do it? And so that was 4 years ago, I suppose, or a bit longer. And he's just a fantastic guy. I mean, obviously he's terrifyingly quick bowler, but really nice, very genuine guy, and so I hung out with him quite a lot, really. And, he's lovely. He's to live. You know him. He comes and does bits of TMS, doesn't he? Yeah. He's a genuinely terrific man, and quite out there. Yeah. So you say you hang out with him. Does he say I hang out with Miles Jupp then?
Oh, probably not. No, he probably says I hang out with Brendan McCullum or Simon Mann. Apparently, he's had the odd coffee with. So things are going well for him. So you knew about his injury a few days ago? I knew it was sort of slightly before you probably, but not in a kind of, it's not sort of hush-hush, deep-throat territory.
No.
But I wanted to know how he was getting on. And I think he thought it was just a sort of routine checkup, so he was slightly surprised to find out he was injured, because he didn't think he was. But people like him, they just put their body on the line, just sort of relentlessly, don't they? And he's he's not much taller than you probably, and he's charging in 97.1 miles an hour as he hitting this summer. Perhaps he was injured when he did that. I mean, it's a massive amount of sacrifice, I think, to the body to be able to perform at that level, and that's why people like you and I generally sort of hold it back a little bit to avoid these sorts of injuries. Yeah, those of you who haven't heard, it happened last night. Well, the news broke last night that Mark Wood is out for the rest of the year, so he's not going to go to Pakistan, and he is not going to go to New Zealand. So that means plenty more podcasts, does it, or not? It might do. Well, we were in contact this week. I said we should maybe we should do a small tour of the northeast together and just travel around some cricket clubhouses if anyone wants to have us, and we'll sit there in a couple of comfy chairs and talk nonsense. Perhaps we haven't booked any dates in or made anything, but that's the sort of thing we could do. But it's very. I mean, I chat to him off, not just when we're on the podcast. He's become a very good friend, really, and he's as you know, he's a wonderful man. But all episodes available on your the thing, whatever platforms they're available on. Yes, or this sort of language fails me, but they're out there apparently. What sort of things do you talk about? Do you talk about cricket, or do you talk? We do talk about cricket. It's something we both have in common. We're both very interested in it.
what we've been up to, what we've been seeing. I mean, most podcasts have 20 minutes of people asking how the other one is and what they've been up to. So that's mandatory, and then a bit of cricket. And it really depends if sometimes he's been playing an Ashes series. Sometimes he's been blackberry picking. It really depends when you catch him.
Right. What have you been up to? Well, I kind of know what you've been up to, but it's worth telling everybody else, because you had a really serious illness not so long ago, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. In 2021, I had a brain seizure, and I discovered as a result of that I had a mercifully benign tumour, something called a meningioma. So I had to have brain surgery to have that removed September 2021. So which was, I'm sort of fine now, but it was, I can't pretend it was an absolutely terrifying experience to go through. And then this year I'd written a show about it, sort of stand-up show. It perhaps sounds like a gloomy topic, but it's a bit of an adventure, really, and nice to have a story to tell. You came to Bloomsbury, or?
Yeah, but I watched you at the Bloomsbury Theatre. I can't remember, April, something like that.
Something like
that. It was okay.
One of those ones. Yeah, was it fine?
Yeah, the evening went. Yeah.
You're very. No,
it was great, actually. Well, tell us a bit more about the show, and because actually it's quite a big thing to do, isn't it? Stand up and talk about something that was actually must have been terrifying in your life.
Well, it was, and I sort of wrote it as a sort of piece of I kind of wrote it thinking I don't have to perform this, but I'd quite like to write down, because I'd quite like to sort of get in my head in the order in which things sort of happened, and sort of answer the question, what was that like? Because I didn't tell people it had happened, so not many people knew, but when I started telling people, they'd say, what was that like? And that show is a very long, detailed answer to what that's like. But then when you start doing the show, you're in performer mode. You're technical. You think, I must remember to say that word then, or that bit in 30 minutes doesn't work, or whatever. What I hadn't thought about, ludicrously, was that people would come to the show because they'd had similar experiences. And so I found myself meeting amazing, sort of inspiring and very interesting people who come to the stage door, or so I've had a similar experience, or my mother has, or my son has, or whatever it might be, and really understanding for the first time how good it was to talk to other people who had been through a similar experience. And I until I did the tour, I hadn't. I'd had it myself. You speak to some doctors, some consultants, some surgeons, but I hadn't actually spoken to someone else who had been through the same experience, and I found that sort of fascinating. And of course, partly it made me realize how lucky I am, because I spoke to people that had awful news at those moments in the story when I had good news. But it was an enjoyable thing to do, and I hadn't really thought about the fact that there'd be that kind of connection, and I really liked that, and I sort of welcomed that. If people said, "Oh, my friend here, he's been through a thing, can you come and talk?" I would go and do it.
So for you, was it kind of therapeutic, or were you really just, it sounds a bit callous, playing it for laughs? You see what I mean?
Well, it wasn't just a sort of mercilessly sort of monetising misfortune. It was, but there was a cathartic element of it. But also, go through an experience like that, there's lots of moments that sort of inevitably are funny. You're going, because just somebody that's not the bravest or organised sort of person suddenly has to go through an intense experience. This was during COVID. I mean, this was sort of lockdown hospital, so it was absolute sort of chaos in many regards. And there was some moments of real indignity. So yeah, I suppose you can go through those bits as well. But it was I didn't write it thinking that I had to do it. I just wanted to write it down, and then once I'd written it down, I went to some music gigs. Actually, I thought, I'd like to do a show again. I'd like to go on tour. And, I love being in a crowd, being in an audience. I love that. That's what's amazing. So I'm like, this is the third day of Test cricket I've come to this summer, and I love being in an audience, being in a crowd. It's good. It's brilliant.
How did it go, the show? How did it go down? Did people laugh and kind of also cry at the same time, if you see what I mean?
Yeah. There were. I mean, there are bits that I suppose are sort of sad, or have the sort of the potential of sad, or make people think about their own experiences, I suppose. So yeah, it's less than sort of older stand-up shows. I'd sort of moan about train travel or unsatisfactory croissants or something, and whereas this got a bit more heft to it, I suppose. So I may even do more. I'm going to go and do it in Galway in October, and who knows, I may do more shows next year.
Yeah, it's tea here, by the way, at the Oval. We're hoping play will resume in a few minutes' time, but it is quite gloomy. It may well be the players come back onto the ground, and then the umpires say to England, well, do you want to bowl spin? Well, no, we don't. Then they might have to go off. But it's 142 for 5. De Silva has 16, and Mendes has 34. So you come to cricket regularly. You were saying to me earlier, you popped up just at this box to just watch some Championship cricket earlier this season.
Yeah, either this season or last year, if I'm around and there's nothing going on. I mean, I live in South Wales, so the Oval's not sort of wildly convenient necessarily, but I go whenever I can. What I'm not very good at is organising. If someone says, oh, I reckon I can get tickets, do you want to come? I will say yes, but it's quite beyond me to go, oh, there's a thing happening at this point. It is, 9 months from now, you never know what's sort of happening. But this year I saw Smith's innings at Edgbaston.
Jamie Smith. Yeah. Where he tried to go under with a 6.
Yeah.
I saw you that day, and you said to me, I didn't notice this. You said that 6 he hit onto the roof, went onto the roof and outside the ground.
Yeah, absolutely huge. He was amazing that day, because we were in 50 odd for 5 or something, and I'd come with Alan Davies, and we were going, this looks absolutely disastrous. And then it turned into glorious, and then we came again with Mark Steele. Was it only last week, the Lord's Test?
It was.
That is mad, isn't it? I'm sorry, but that is ridiculous. Anyway, it was. There they were, and we saw Root's his first century of that particular game. I mean, he's just an astonishing person to watch. I mean, he's so good, but I love the way he plays the game. His sort of, the way he carries himself. There's a kind of jolliness about him. He plays the game with a smile on his face. We've had some very good, very miserable cricketers, haven't we, playing for England? And he's outrageously good and just has a smile on his face. And I love him for that.
So when you couldn't get into the Oval, could you, in 2005? Is that right?
No, I did manage to get in.
I
had they released some tickets on day. So I saw day 4 and day 5. Day 5, I got really lucky. Somebody had they bought a ticket in January or something for a tenner, and they sold it to me outside. They had 2 and they had 1 spare. They said, who wants this? And then on the day 4, which was when sort of Flintoff and Hogarth started suddenly taking, Australia lost almost no wickets, scored loads of runs, and they suddenly just took a shed load of wickets. And then on day 5 was the Peterson. What did he score? 1-5. It was only his 5th Test match, wasn't it? Extraordinary. I was sitting just in front of the gas holders, and he was. When Brett Lee came on after lunch, in fact, Zoltz was there that day. I remember bumping into him and John Oliver. They were just happened to be a few seats in front, and the Sixers were heading way over the top of us. I thought, gosh, this isn't safe. Now, of course, I've had brain surgery. It'd be even more frightening. But at the time, it was a much more laissez-faire time in the mid noughties. But that was an astonishing. Yeah, so 12th of September 2005. That was sort of that was the payback for however long I'd been into cricket by then. It seemed a long time to be into cricket before us. Winning something like that, it was absolutely an astonishing day. And then so I went to India with you, and that's and there it was.
But do you ever think you
very rarely
you wanted you wanted to become a reporter?
Yeah.
Do you regret that didn't happen, or did everything subsequently
really.
Work out for the best?
Yeah, no, I think things have been all right. We seem to have just meat in the fridge, try and keep the mortgage covered where possible. But I sort of, what I learned on that was how much I like being a fan. I guess I love being in the crowd. That day, I was just talking to us about 12th September 2005 when we happened to be in the same. I remember having a text message from you, and we've gone to such and such a pub, and then you just say, "What a day! What a day! What a day!" It was absolutely magical, and that there's a certain magic about being in the stands. So like in Mumbai when. That 2006, being in the stands, not the press box, when Sean Udall took 4 for 42, including a catch by Monty Panesar, got under a steepler eventually.
The second attempt, I think he dropped one. Then
the first one was astonishing because it really looked like it was. Everything looked right, and then it landed 2-3 meters to his right. But being in the stands for a victory like that, it's just a brilliant feeling. Yeah. I'm sure it's terrific being up here as well, Simon. I think it's very, very, of course, very valuable work you do. But being in the stand, it just feels so good.
Yeah. Well, in a minute you're going to have to go back to the far end and go back with all those celebrities at the far end of the ground there, Brian May. Anita Dobson is here as well.
That's right. Yeah. Dan Norcross I bumped into earlier. That was absolute. That was just bucket list stuff. But where we are now, I mean, this is the celebrity end of the ground. You've got the skybox. There's all sorts of legends of the game sort of shuffling around as if it's normal to them. But no, it's very, very exciting for the likes of me.
Well, the umpire's coming out. Now, I think they will get their light meter today. Here's an email from Chris Hoban. Hello, TMS. Lovely to hear Miles's voice today. Lovely chap, he says.
Oh, that's very nice of him.
Yeah. I once played cricket with him in Abinger Hammer, the Surrey Hills. I was bowling my loopy leg breaks, and the well-set Abinger batsman heaved me up to long off, where Miles was prowling ominously.
Very dangerous fielder. Yeah.
He set his sights, steadied himself, took a step back, and then another, and then promptly toppled backwards into the river.
That is absolutely true. Yeah, and I'd only turned up in my whites. I had to go home in a car, absolutely soaking. And I think we lost. Somebody gave me a lift as well, and then I umpired when I arrived, and I gave them run out, and they refused to give me a lift back. So yeah, a day of mixed fortunes.
Anyway. So went for 6, did it? Right, okay.
It did, yeah. So there's no need for me to chase it at all. But I've got such a bad sense of what's going on.
So cricket playing, how does cricket playing for you equate with cricket watching?
Well, I'm quite bad, but I had that luxury of not realising I was bad until I was old enough to handle it. I love it, but I'm just not good enough to do it. I play, and since the brain surgery, I've been slightly too frightened to have face a hard ball. Now something's happening. But no, I'm not very good. But occasionally I turn up for one of thirds or fourths. Yeah.
And you've got quite a lot of kids, haven't you? You've got 5. They were watching the Freddie Flintoff documentary the other evening.
Yeah, they were.
So have you managed to sort of inculcate your love of cricket into them?
Just about. My eldest, I've actually got him into buying a cricket game for his PS5, and I had a great moment. And he was like, "Oh, do you have to do this? It takes up loads of memory. What are you doing it?" And then I went up to offer him a cup of tea the other day. He started a career mode on his own, and I was delighted. I just teach him, you just got to go. Don't do any of the, it's red ball only career. It's all about balls faced. I've told him that's the way the game works. So he's trying to turn him into a sort of left-handed Atherton.
Miles, thanks very much. Tea interval's come to an end. You came over just to sort of say hello to us, and you ended up doing the tea interval for us.
Well,
thanks very much indeed.
My absolute pleasure. Very nice to see you all. Thank you.